In this video, I'm going to be telling you guys how you can secure those A stars in your A-level exams. So here we are at the start of a new academic year, and if you're in year 13, those A-levels are only going to get closer by the day. So I myself managed to secure 2 A stars in biology and psychology, and then I got an A in maths, so hopefully you can trust these tips. It's up to you whether or not you do, but please trust them so that you watch the video. I don't know how this works, but yeah. Throughout this video, I'm going to be giving you 5 tips that you should stick to if you want to achieve the best grades possible for your exam. To make sure that you're equipped with all of the knowledge that you need to ace your A-levels, be sure to keep watching until the end. So the first thing on this list isn't really related to the work that you actually have to do, it's more so related to how you should revise in general. And that is to remember that where you revise or study is important. But Luther, what do you mean by that? The chances are that you probably spend a lot of time revising or studying in your house when you do decide to study, when you're not procrastinating. The main problem with studying somewhere like your bedroom is that this room is already associated with other things. Your bed is right there, and it's so easy for you to just lie down and take a breather during revision that you'll probably get a lot less revision done. The same problem applies to the kitchen where there's food around. You'll probably make yourself a sandwich or something which already takes like 10-20 minutes. And then in the living room there's probably other people in there, which is just a huge distraction. What I did during my revision was I took the time to actually go to my local library, and by doing so I was now in an environment where everyone else was working and I felt that I had to work, because at home no one else is working around you, so why should you? Or at least that's how I felt when I was at home trying to revise. It's so much easier to start studying when everyone else around you is also studying, because you're influenced by everyone else around you. It's the social influence in the environment. If you're not working and everyone else is, then you're the one left out. But yes, the library is a very good place to revise. Moving on to tip number 2, which is to master your exam technique. How many times have you heard your teacher blabbing on about exam technique and how it's so important? Because they're actually right. A lot of the time we don't want to believe them because sometimes the teachers are being kind of stupid. They're just like, shut up please. But exam technique is pretty much essential to getting those good grades, and here's why. A lot of the time you look at a question, let's say this question is a 6 marker. Perhaps you have the knowledge to answer that question and get the full 6 marks, but maybe you don't exactly know how the examiners want you to answer it. This is what exam technique is. There's a specific formula and a specific way that they want you to answer the question in order to get those full 6 marks. Even though you know everything there is to know about whatever, like glycolysis or if you're really knowledgeable on the topic but you don't know how the exam wants you to answer it, then you're just not going to get the full 6 marks when you could have if you had just simply gone over simple exam technique. For example, in essay subjects, you might study PEEL, which is point, evidence, explanation, and then link, which is how you should structure all of your paragraphs within an essay, because that's how the examiner wants you to answer it. And it also lays out your essay in a really clear way, which says this student knows what they're doing. And if you don't know exactly what you should be doing for these questions, just ask your teacher. Your teacher's meant to be there for you to help you out with whatever you need, so just go and ask them if you don't understand how to answer a particular type of question. Knowing about subtle differences in questions such as explain this or describe this could really make the difference in getting those few marks that you need to cross the grade boundary and get a higher grade than you would have if you hadn't studied this stuff. And if your teacher's really incompetent, then I'm sure there's a lot of YouTube videos out there. You could probably just Google like exam technique for history or exam technique for English, maths, whatever subjects you want to do. Moving on to tip number 3, which is past papers, and more past papers. You probably get the gist of this one, right? Your teachers probably also tell you to do all of these past paper questions and you just can't be bothered because it's just so much work. But it's also work that we have to put in if we want to achieve those high grades, you know what I mean? As much as I hate to admit it, a lot of teachers know what they're saying when they say like, do these past paper questions or study your exam technique. They've been teaching for many years and they've realized that this is exactly what you need to do. But like I said, we don't like listening to what the teachers have to say, so hopefully you listen to me. I don't know what makes me any more qualified than a teacher. Also, given that I'm not qualified to be a teacher and they are, and they've also done their degree. Anyways, back to the tip. I know that some of you might be thinking that you want to save those past papers for just before your A-levels so that you can get the perfect amount of revision just before your A-levels in. And yeah, I get that. And I'd actually recommend that you do that. Now, you also need to remember that there are so many other exam boards that have so many past papers that probably includes most of the topics that you need to know within those past paper questions that you could be doing. So instead of doing your own exam board past paper questions a year before your actual A-levels or even more than that, then you have all of these past paper questions from those exam boards that you're not going to be sitting. That doesn't make sense. For those exam boards that you're not doing the exam for, yeah, I think that makes sense. Maybe you still aren't convinced that you should be doing the past papers. Okay, sure, go and take your notes, make your mind maps, whatever. If you're not doing the past paper questions, then you're gonna have no practice with the exam technique, because past papers are pretty much exactly how the exams will be. In fact, past papers are just exams in the past. So doing these past papers is actually the best practice that you could get for those A-levels. And if you can get good grades on these past papers, that's actually a really good sign that you can do the exact same thing for the real thing, for the A-level exams. Another good thing about past papers is it tells you what you don't know. A lot of the time we're really bad at assessing what we don't know because we like to think we know more than we do, and when it comes up in the test and you're like, I didn't revise this, oh shit, you're kind of just putting yourself in a bad situation. The good thing about doing past papers is when you get the questions wrong, you know exactly what you need to focus your revision on. In fact, it doesn't even matter if you don't get a good score on these past papers at first, because those questions that you got wrong are going to be the most important thing for you in your revision. When you get those questions wrong in those certain topics, you can now prioritize your revision for these topics. You can now put this on the top of your revision to-do list and get that done as soon as possible, because now you know your weaknesses, you can work on them and turn them into your strengths. That is completely, utterly very cheesy. I don't even know if those adjectives make sense. I'm just blabbing. Before we move on to tip number 4, remember to like and subscribe if you have enjoyed this video so far, or if it has helped you out in any way, shape or form. And this tip is actually really simple. It's to make sure that you cover everything. Now for me, when I was revising, I just looked at the topic list and I was like, that's so much content that we need to know. And I realized that I didn't understand what half of those topics were when I looked at that list, especially for biology. And it's pretty overwhelming when you just look at this list and you're like, I need to know all of this, because A-levels are so dense, so jam-packed full of information, and it's really hard to wrap your head around what you actually need to know and what you don't. And my solution to this is to go and find the specification for your particular exam board, so like AQA biology or something, and make your own list of the topics that you need to know from top to bottom. Usually the textbooks are already really good at this, and the topics are split up for you, which makes your life so much easier. So maybe if you don't already have one, go and find a textbook that splits up the topics into digestible chunks, so you know what you need to go through. And now that you have this topic list, you can figure out how much time you want to spend on each topic. I'd recommend spending at least a few days on each one instead of rushing it and doing one topic every single day, because you can't do that. In fact, depending on how much time you have, I'd recommend spending a whole week or even more on a single topic for a particular subject, just so that you know that you can master this one topic. And once you start getting bored of the topic, you can do past papers in between, so you refresh your memory on these topics that you might have been revising several months ago. But oh, this topic also pops up in those past papers that you've been doing while you're revising. Past papers are actually like high-key, low-key the secret to getting good A-level grades, just doing a lot of those and marking them properly. You better not be cheating when you mark those past papers, alright? Just because it's a little bit different from the mark scheme, you're like, I'll give myself the mark anyway. Don't do that, man. You need to... Don't make that mistake, please. And that brings us to our 5th and final tip, which is that there are no shortcuts. Yeah, it's pretty bland, right? But you really need to be honest with yourself with how much time you're actually putting into revision, because if you're only putting in 1 to a few hours of revision every single week, it's not really going to benefit you much in the long term, and it's probably not the most beneficial for you in terms of getting those grades that you want. It takes quite a bit of work to actually revise. Yeah. I was really ridiculous when it comes to revision, and I still kind of am. So don't use this as a base for measuring your success of how many hours you're revising. But I was revising like at least 5 hours a day on school days, and then probably about like 6 to 8 to 10 even hours on the weekends. Probably about 6, because a lot of that time was spent procrastinating or chatting with my mates in the library. There was a time period when I went to the library every single day on my own, and it was really sad. But this was the week before my mock exams in year 13, which were in January, and those turned out to be extremely important because my A-levels were those in 2020. So I didn't actually do my A-level. So why should you trust my tips? Good question. I didn't sit the A-levels, so I can't tell you how to do the A-levels, but I was definitely on track to getting there. Okay, I was aiming for 3 A stars. I don't know, I've helped a few people out with this before, and I feel like I was revising more than quite a few other people. Okay, I know I didn't actually sit my A-levels, but if it's any consolation, I was sad that they cancelled my A-levels. It sounds freaking nerdy, but I just wanted to sit them so that I know that I truly deserved these grades instead of just getting grades on a platter and whatnot. But you know, that's just a whole different situation. A lot of people were really happy that A-levels were cancelled because they didn't do revision, and I spent a lot of time revising. If you're not yet in the process of doing your A-levels and you're actually studying for your GCSEs and you want some GCSE revision tips, I plan to make a video on that soon in the future. Let me know if you would like that in the comments down below. Just be like, make a video on GCSEs now! But I hope this video is helpful to you. If you want to see more videos from me, productivity tips, Oxford vlogs, I don't know, I make content, I'm still figuring it out. But if you want to see more from me, check out my channel Luther's Online. If this video helped you out in any way, shape or form, remember to hit that like button and click the subscribe button down below. It really helps me out with the YouTube algorithm, and I really don't know how this algorithm works. So yeah, this has been Luther, and here's your reminder to never stop learning. Peace out.